Hello, welcome. Today we're gonna pick back up with the random VTuber code, and I have actually gotten it to set up so that like it actually runs. So it is formatted as a JavaScript in an HTML file now. So after today, oh, my cursor's on again. After today, I may, turn off that cursor. Okay. After today, I may, like, set the preview version up so that you can actually use it. It is still very much a work in progress, and it won't be done after today either, but, it should hopefully be better. We'll see. I've also gone through and, like, I put more comments in here so that I know what the heck things are, and I've just kind of reorganized it a little bit to keep it a little more readable, because by the end of a, Oh, hello, Maxie, welcome. I'm doing pretty good. I slept most of the day. It was what it looked, so I was working from home, and why is my chat not on? Hold on. Chat, please appear. Let me test, Yeah, chat's not working today. I don't know why. It should be. Oh, it got moved underneath the overlay. Okay. Sorry, I just had to figure that out real quick. Everything is scuffed forever. But I'm doing pretty good, mostly just slept. How are you, Maxie? A chat summoning dance. But yeah, I've converted this into actual JavaScript in an HTML file, and organized it a little bit better. So I thought about how to do the outfit part, and so what I've got so far is I might do it like I did the Digimon World DS is one of my favorite games. Actually, I've got a capture card now. I need some cables for it, but I've got a capture card, so that might be a fun thing to stream sometime, because I really like Digimon World. All of them, but especially the DS ones. They're very good. Why was I oh, because... Okay, I was thinking of doing the outfit like this one, so that there would be a few different types. I forgot to hit transition after I fixed the chat, so it still wasn't fixed. Oh no. I'm a little scatterbrained today. Like I said, I haven't been awake for more than like 3 hours, so I am very nocturnal. The only thing about, if I were gonna stream Digimon World DS or like Dusk, with a capture card is that I don't want to delete my game, so I might need to like buy a new game. Yeah, I also like, so I woke up like multiple times throughout the day because like technically I was working from home. So I would like wake up and check my email about every hour or so. Sorry, I just had to take care of that. I am not comfortable with people coming into my chat with Hitler on their account, so I was just taking care of that. I'm sorry. I did not. It took me a second to like figure out how to handle that. Yeah. So. Let me just apparently that was still not enough to move it to the next line. Okay. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay. Now, if I can get my brain back together, we can move on. Okay, so I have the outfit generator part set up. And so the only one I have in there so far is this. Actually, there's another way that I could handle this type of thing. Oh my god. One second. I'm gonna see if I can get a mod in here real quick. This is the first time I've really needed one. But for future reference, please don't come into my chat with references to Hitler or Stalin or other extremely violent historical figures. It's not cool. Let me just bump this with some Frankenstein text. And that still wasn't enough. Okay. Let's just do the next paragraph then. Or honestly, the next couple of sentences, because these sentences are freaking long. Okay, there we go. Alright. Hopefully we can move on now, and I'm gonna see if I can get a mod in. I don't know if anybody's available to do that, but we'll see. This is really the first time that I've needed a mod, which is, it's pretty good since I've been streaming since, October? Yeah, since October of last year, so. Anyway, hopefully we can actually get back to coding now. Alright, so. Alright, so that is the first format, but there's another way that I can do this, and I'm gonna have to like reference one of my other files to see what I can do is like roll the generator and have it, if it comes up on a certain number, it'll add sentences, and if it doesn't, it won't. So that way they're not always in the same order and stuff. But I have to look and see, because every time I stop writing JavaScript, I just forget all of it, and I have to relearn it every time I go back. Where are my files? Sorry it's been boring so far, by the way. I will get into actually doing stuff in a moment. I meant to sort this out beforehand, but I woke up too late to figure that out. But I hope everyone's doing well. Oh, it's in my Dropbox somewhere, the files that I'm looking for. Okay, let me just copy this over and kind of go through it. We need to go like at the end here. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, how's your music going so far? Okay, so these are obviously variables from the other generator that I pulled this from, but like... This would be like the species part, or the profession part, and then it would do a check if there would be any extra sentences, and if there are, then it would pull sentences from this variable. So I could do it like that. Let me comment this out so it's not actually trying to do anything with that. I always mess up the comments. There we go. Ooh, that's really good. I'm glad you're making progress. I think for now, until I decide how I want to do the rest of it, I'll focus on expanding these a little bit. So different types of styles, actually. Emo, I could put that in there. Why not? We can have emo VTubers. Other types of style. Actually, let me do this one first, because I don't want too much overlap, so like... Yeah, I went through it a little bit and tried to figure out sort of how I wanted to handle this so that I could get right to work on it. I'll just say suit. What else? Oh, OG is not Lolita. It is, it's kind of adjacent to Lolita. It's, like OG means prince, so it's like, I'll find some examples, but kind of a masculine, aristocratic type of outfit. Sorry, it always takes me a second to figure out how to get images up. Hello, Lillian, welcome. How are you today? It's been a while since I have done much streaming, so it's been a while since I have talked to you. Every time I pull this image in, it disappears. Why? Okay, there we go. That's OG style. It's like a lot of like fancy shirts and usually like bloomers or breeches and like stockings and stuff like that. Just like a Lolita style prince, basically. Maybe I should take, that might be kind of confusing, but I'm gonna leave it in for now. I can figure that out later. Oh yeah, yeah, Black Butler style is a very good way to put it. Like all of CL's outfits, basically. Yeah. Actually, I should put Butler in here. Although, granted, we might have Butler up here somewhere. That's what I mean about overlap. Some of this is kind of hard to figure out how to handle it, because like normally if you were a maid or a butler VTuber, then your outfit would be butler-like, but but then you can be another type of VTuber and you can still have a maid uniform or whatever, so actually. Trying to think of other like costume type things. That's mostly what I'm using this for, like uniforms and costumes. Oh, you're good, Lillian. Feel free to pop in and out whenever you want. I'm coding and chatting today, so it might not be the most exciting stream. But yeah, no worries. I'll see you later if you come back. Jester, definitely. Actually, I should put clown up in the professions, because I've definitely seen plenty of clown VTubers. They seem to be popular. Oh, I've also seen like author or writers. Actually, did I put witch up here? I don't think I did. I will. Oh, someone got back to me about modding, so let me tell them how to do that and get that taken care of. Again, sorry for me kind of deer in the headlights-ing there, because I've never had to handle something like that before, and it took me a sec to remember how to do it. Okay, since it seems to be okay now, I might just, like, ping them if they seem to come back. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Chuni is definitely a... Yeah, I'm gonna put that in as a character type. I love Chuni so much. I love them all. Actually, I'm gonna be on Sunday. I'm gonna be streaming more of the first Danganronpa game. So it'll be a while before I get to 2. But one of my favorite characters ever is Tanaka Gundam. He is the best Chunibyo. He is my Chunibyo son. Where did I put that? Oh, it's under here. Yeah. Not really a profession, but I think it fits in here the best. Actually, then again, like, I could do, like, a separate... I was thinking about that last time, like, tsundere and yandere and, like, other stuff like that, so... I'm just gonna put... Did I have type already? No, I don't. I think royal would go well in here, like... I don't know how I'm gonna phrase it, but maybe like demeanor or personality, or just character type, we'll see. But I'll come back to that later. Other types of costumes. Ghost. Then again, we've got like ghost in the species too, so that's the thing. I don't want it to like come up with a bunch of stuff that's just like redundant or overlapping. Honestly, this is probably the hardest part of making a generator, because the actual coding itself is pretty easy, but making the sentences come out right is the hardest thing. Urban, yeah, I could do that. Maybe that would fit more in style, I think. Okay, casual is good too. Formal. What else? Sporty. Oh, sports uniform is another one that I should put up here. Why does it keep doing that? Why does it not tab over? Other types of styles. Again, like I'm trying to go over in my head of like all the VTubers that I know. And how I would describe their visual styles. Visual K on that note. Yeah. I think that would probably be divided into military and school uniform, because some of it is more on like the sailor uniform side, but then like, yeah, I think that would fit into military. Well, I think on that I will put some more stuff in here. I think for now I'm gonna do it the way that I've been doing it, but at the end I might like rework it to use this type of generation. Oh, I forgot to put the dice part. Usually at the end when I go to like test it, there's usually like 50 instances of me forgetting to write a function or missing a punctuation mark or something, so... You know, there might be some. I know of at least one VTuber who does like metal style vocals for sure. I think that's Zen. But I can't remember if that's really like a fashion part of his character or if it's just like his musical style. Ah, I see. When you said mana, at first I was like mana? Like mana? And then I read the rest of the sentence because I was thinking of like the visual K mana because I just wrote visual K. It's like, Mana's a VTuber? I feel like it's only a matter of time until like one of the big like J-Rock folks does some VTuber. I feel like Gact would be a VTuber. I definitely feel like he would. He's like a bunch of anime characters already, so... I just found out that they put TM Revolution in, oh, I forget the name, but that show that's like, ball joint doll style puppets, they put TM Revolution in it. Hello Archie, welcome. The biblical Eve, or like... or someone who goes by Eve, because I'm not sure if I'm familiar. Welcome, I hope you're doing good. Oh, okay, I was like, Eve? The opposite happened. I don't know if I've heard Eve. I will have to check later. So my friend just mentioned the biblical Eve a little while ago, so my brain just went straight to that. I was like, huh. I was like, well, we have Satan, we have various demons. Why not Eve? Yeah, definitely. I love Untitled. Awesome, thank you. Right now I'm just trying to think of different styles and like fashions to make the outfit part. I also need to start like I actually have seen a VTuber like that, Maxi. Not like completely, but like I've definitely seen VTubers who have their angel characters have elements of that. Bunches of eyes and fire and stuff. Glasses must be first. I don't want to know exactly how I'm going to use this one yet, but I think I will wind up using it, so I might as well. Get it started, and oh, that's right, I could put pajamas in here. I am very, very determined on this fact. Thigh highs. Thigh highs should probably go in here. And you're right, those are also very important. Just socks. Regular socks. I felt like accessory would be easy, but my brain is already hitting a wall. We are, you're correct, Maxi. We're talking about the important things, focusing on only the most vital aspects of being a VTuber. Speaking of which, off the shoulder. I'm gonna put sweater, but also off the shoulder jacket, of course. I don't know if I've seen a VTuber with a monocle, but I think there should be one if there's not. I'll put hat in there because I'm not sure everybody knows what a cloche is. I forgot he was still there. So I always forget to hit transition. I didn't realize he was still there. Whoops. Oh, Frankenstein's in the background too. My brackets window is not quite large enough. I was like, what is that at the bottom? It's okay. This stream is just 100% scuffed. It's fine. They always are. So Archie, earlier we had some trolls coming in, and I blue screen for a minute because that hadn't happened to me before, and I was like, how do I ban these people? How do I do that? Scuff is life. It's the way of the VTuber. It's fine. I'll come back to that when I think of more things. I'm just gonna be bouncing around a little bit as to fill these out. But another really important part is gonna be stuff like wings and horns and all of that, and like tails, because like obviously, you know, if you're a demon or an angel, you probably have wings, or you know, if you're a hamster, you probably have hamster ears. But if you were just like a teacher, you could still have animal ears. You could still have wings. No rule says that you can't. Maybe I'll put that in as like... I don't know what to call that though, like... It's not an accessory. It's kind of a body part, but it's a very specific kind of body part, so I'll just call it body part for now until I think of something better. I was gonna like... That's true. Actually, I was talking on Twitter earlier. Silver, one of my buddies, was posting about how cool it would be to like gene splice yourself into a real cat boy, and I was like, yes, all transhumanism is leading up to cat people. That is the logical end point. That is what everyone's efforts are working toward. Someday it's gonna be real. We're gonna be real cat people. Speaking of cats, Baby is rubbing against my feet right now. Hello, Baby. See, I was going to do like roll an animal and then plus ears or tail, but I put like all the fish and all the bugs in here also, so those don't really have ears, so I guess I'll just put animal ears for now. I could split those up. Yeah, that's true. If you had the cat personality spliced in, hopefully it'll just be the physical part. I'm already pretty much like a cat, so... Oh no, Archie got timed out for the link. I didn't know that was on. I'll have to fix that. Like, I don't know, because it does deal with spam, but also, like, I don't mind people linking me to things, so... I'll definitely have to look over my mod bots too, because one of my friends got reset and it kept timing me out for No, it kept holding my messages for moderator approval because I said curse words in them. And I was like, oh, I can't say a cuss. And they were like, wait a minute, you should be able to say that. I don't even cuss that much, but... What was it? Oh, it would hold my messages for hostility is the reason it told me. Let's see, what else should we do? I'm gonna have to come back to this because there's just a lot of things that I have to think about how I'm gonna format it, how the sentences are gonna come out. That really is the hardest part of the whole thing, is figuring that out. Because I can list species of things all day. I can list like clothing pieces all day, but making that come out correctly in an English sentence and like for all of these to work at the same time, that is very hard. Just headbutting people with my tiny horns. They're also on the kind of on the back of my head, so I'd have to like really like mean it. I have to like gore people like tossing my head like that. Maybe I should make my horns bigger in nightmare mode. There's a forum that I'm working on called nightmare mode, and I don't know when or if I'll be able to actually commission like an avatar of it, but I at least want some like art of it. That's what horns are for. Horns are for yeeting. Aggressive yeeting. Hair. Hair is another thing that's gonna take a lot of thought, but I should probably get started on it. There's a lot of descriptions that can go into hair, like whether it's straight or wavy or curly, and you know what color it is, and then the style. Then you can also have like fashion types of hair, like emo hair is a specific thing. But not all of these have specific. And there's like Hime bangs and like Hime curls. There's all kinds of different stuff. Okay, I'm gonna leave that aside and start out with just like basic hairstyles. And there's also length. Man, this part's gonna be really hard. There's a lot of stuff here that I'm gonna have to like really think about. I could be vague, but I think it would be interesting to at least include the possibility for it to give more detail. But I don't think I'm gonna break it down as much as I could, though. Let's do like very short. Very long. The easiest things are the things that I have myself, because I can look at myself and see them, and I'm like, yes, I have to put that on there. That exists. Ponytail, of course. I'm gonna put twin tails because that's a cuter word, twin tails. Pigtails is also cute, but then I can also write like twin braids. And that will make more sense. Welcome, Raver Carlos. How are you today? Thank you for coming. So the problem with braids, and I have run into this as I try to do art of my own character and as other people try to draw art of me, braids are really hard to draw. They're a pain. I've created a character that is a pain for me to draw myself because of the braid. I love it, and I'm gonna keep it forever. But it's hard to draw. What else? That's just another thing that I'm gonna have to come back to, probably. We have the most done for this, so I should probably, like, extend this a little bit. Yeah, so the thing about length is that, like, I could do it like this, or I could break it up into, like... I don't know, there's too much, there are too many possibilities. I'm trying to think about it in terms of, like, pickeroos, because I do a lot of pickeroo doll makers. So they usually break it down into front hair or bangs, back hair, side hair, and then, like, extras. Then there's also stuff like, you know, fluffy or fine or things like that. Like, I could include all of that, or I could make it more simple. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Oh, no problem, Archie. Not too much. I'm trying to puzzle out hair. Because there's so many ways to describe hair and so many different elements of a hairstyle. I do not know at the moment. Ooh, I need to not be forgetting my semicolons. That will mess me up a lot later if I forget those. Oh yes, drill hair, very important. Okay, I can put in half ponytail. Side ponytail is also kind of distinct from regular ponytail. We'll do high ponytail, low ponytail, I don't think I'm gonna put high and low in for everything, but I think for twin tails and ponytails, it changes the look and feel a lot. And there's also like a French braid is different from a regular braid. I might also separate, yeah, there's so many kinds of ponytails. Yeah, that's the thing. That's definitely a good point, and I might do it that way. Yeah, actually, because high and low can apply to different things too. It makes more sense to do it that way. I don't know. What is a half ponytail? I gotta look that up and see what it is. Oh, so it's like, okay, I see what you mean by half ponytail. I wonder if there's another way I can phrase that. Side doesn't really apply to... Maybe I'll just take side out and only do high and low. I could also make a variable for all the twin styles too. Hopefully that'll work. I've never done like a completely empty variable before, so hopefully that won't break anything. People don't really say twin ponytail, but I think that's like understandable that if you said twin pony... Actually, I can regex that out and fix it. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna do that. I just have to remember to do that. So that's gonna look a lot different. Okay, so as it is now, it can be like a high twin ponytails or low, low buns or something like that. And then I'll have to do some regex witchery to fix the grammar, but it'll be okay. You can see I've already had to do it with this because horse tar was so dumb. I was like, no, we're not doing horse tar. We're fixing that. There's a lot more stuff I'll have to fix, but I'll do it when I know how I've actually written the sentence. Half horse, all horse. It could be like a horse, like a horse body, and then in place of the head is the front of a horse. That's what I'm imagining. So it would have 6 legs. I'm sure somebody's drawn that. It's like a reverse mermaid. Let me figure out how I'm gonna use these. Like an example sentence. So that would be like... Actually, I'm going to change that to length since it's just length now. Yeah, anther horse centaur, yeah. I'm sure that is a thing. Keep forgetting to put the function in. If I don't do that, it will break. Or it might output the entire the entire string, and that would not be good. Actually, since there should also be an option for just having it loose. God, I could just regex all of it. That is always an option. It's a pain, but I could do that. So if I did like a do loose, that would be 50% loose though, is the thing. Which I guess is not unreasonable, but it's kind of the opposite problem. like at one point I had tried to create a randomizing function with percentages, because that would help a lot with this type of thing, but I haven't been able to figure out how to do that yet. I've tried and it doesn't run, so and then I guess I can just regex the thing is, like, the thing that sucks about regex is the only thing that you can do is just put everything in manually. Just because the way that the English language is, there's no no consistent way to do it. You just have to write it all out. Okay, so we got buns, buns, ponytail, braids, and drills. I see, I see. I'm sure there probably is. Braids, buns, ponytails, and drills. Okay. So that should now work. Actually, I think this would be better if I did it like this. Oh, right, I was gonna put... I could also put a blank one in here, so sometimes it's just like, whatever. Again, though, I don't know if that's gonna work. It might get mad when I try to run that code. Okay, so it would be like, she has very short... very short hair, worn loose or styled in a... Yeah, that's a pretty common descriptor. I might have to do some regex also with very short, because I was thinking like cropped hair, and you would not really be able to put cropped hair in a ponytail. So I might have to do some more regex switchery later, but that's not super important right now. Because when the whole thing is done, I'm gonna have to test it a whole lot and see if things come up that sound dumb, so I can fix them. So she would be like, she has very short hair, worn loose or styled in high twin buns. Oh, I'm gonna have to put all of that in too. I can do it like this. Oh no, I can't do it like that because the output has to change depending on whether that. See, this is why regex is annoying. Does this code not beautify correctly? Okay, there we go. I think that's everything that I need. Probably, hopefully. So it need to be okay, I think that's how the whole sentence has to look. So I'm gonna put that in here. I'm gonna test that real quick and see if it actually does work or if I've messed something up. So give me 1 second to fix that. Or try that, I mean. Nope, I broke it. I have to figure out how I broke it, but I broke it. Oh. No, whoops, that was correct. I didn't see that I had an extra function. It didn't crash, but it doesn't run, so... First of all, I've forgotten some semicolons. Let me run this through a linter real quick also. That's the quickest way to figure out if I've like missed semicolons or something. Yeah, the problem about 90% of the time is that I just didn't type a punctuation mark somewhere. So that's why I'm gonna lint it real quick and see. Yeah, I definitely messed up some punctuation somewhere. Oh, I forgot many semicolons. And some commas. Oh, and I also used type twice, so... And I have some undefines. One of them is a typo. Okay. It should be fixed now. Hopefully it will run. Yeah, it does cause problems, but I'm also lazy and I don't like to retype things, so... I really need to see if I can find like a linter extension for brackets, because I have to do this every time. Because the linter I use doesn't understand HTML, so... Did that paste? It did not. Really? After all that? I gotta do it again. Come on. I should have just like fixed it like in here by line, but again, I'm lazy. So did that paste that time? Yes, it did. Okay. Now I will run it again and see. Nope, it still doesn't run. There's still something wrong. It might be these. I know you can have just a space in one, but I don't know if you can have a totally empty string. Nope, that didn't do anything either. Time to lint it again. This is like the extra boring part of coding. If I can't get it, I may like set it aside and like so I can check it manually off stream, because that's really boring to watch. So, but I don't want to keep working on it if there's something broken that I have to fix. So. I'll do it one more time and then we'll see. And if not, I will move on to reading Frankenstein and getting mad at Victor. There is still a missing semicolon. That might be the whole issue. Where is it? What line? It is 398. $398, where are you? Actually, that's not going to be the same in this because I think it might be. Okay, it's right here. The line that I just wrote. But that still didn't fix it, so... Is there anything else wrong? It was working definitely when I just had this stuff. Oh well. I will... Let me just make sure all of this is oh, this should be capsed. Anyway. That should all be okay. Oh, your brother codes? What language does he code in? JavaScript is all I know. I know CSS and HTML too, but I don't really think of that as code. I guess it is, but like, it's web coding, which in my brain is different from coding. I really should learn like Python or something. JavaScript is not that great or that useful, so. It was good for my needs, but yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to this another time. At this point, I could switch to Frankenstein or I could play a game. Oh, I see. Yeah, coding logic is similar across different kinds of codes. Not always the same, but yeah, like if you somewhat know the way that one works, you can sometimes apply it to something else, even if the syntax is different. That's why, like, they like to teach kids now, kind of like simplified code formats, because at least the logic will help them later when they learn real types of code. I think like Scratch is one of those languages that they teach kids. It would have been cool if that was around when I was a kid, because like, so I grew up in, like, you know, the 90s, the early 90s, and I was on the computer a lot sooner than a lot of people in the 90s, because, or like a lot of kids in the 90s, because my dad was really, really into them. Like, he's an engineer, he likes computers. So I was using Windows 95 when I was a small child, probably using the one before that too. And I became really, really obsessed with the idea of making my own website. I didn't know how that worked. I didn't even know how you would put a website on the internet. Like, it was a very mysterious thing to me, but I wanted to do it. And so, like, eventually I started making, like, Angelfire and GeoCities sites and trying to learn HTML, but it was very difficult for me. I did manage eventually to make some websites. One of my Angelfire sites still exists, and the layout is so broken. It's so bad. If you know what best practices are, I probably used worst practices. It's super broken. But it still loads. I think that I will try reading the introduction of Frankenstein, because I've never done like a read aloud stream before. But yeah, there's so much now. There was a little bit of documentation, but like there was really just one specific site that I used. I think it was called like Lisa's Coding for Kids or something like that. It was just like a very basic HTML reference. And then like when I started trying to code, I don't know if CCS was a thing or if it just wasn't a very popular thing yet. But later on, when I tried to learn CSS, at first it was like impossible for me. I could not do it. I couldn't get it. It was so hard. I don't know why, but I really struggled. So I kept using pure HTML for a while to build sites, and pure HTML is not good for styling sites. HTML is just for the content. CSS is for the style. So if you try to do the style in HTML, it's gonna look bad. You're gonna be fighting uphill. And that's why, like, I don't have any CSS actually in this, because it's not like, this is just the temporary, like, trial version of the file, but, when I, like, actually post it, I'll make a style sheet for it, too. I might put it on my Tumblr. It's really funny going back and looking at my old HTML though, because it's so bad. It's horrible. I'm decent at it now, I think. Not great, but decent. We got some spam in chat today. That's in Twitch. Oh, somebody got it. Thank you. Oh, Stream Elements got it. Cool. I wonder if there's a way to delete things out of Restream chat. I will bump it with Frankenstein again. There we go. We have decimated the spam with Frankenstein. Speaking of which, I think I am gonna switch over to that and try reading it because I've never done that before, and it sounds fun. So. But let me maybe get some more fitting music up than my normal, very cheerful techno playlist. This one might be. No, that's not the best for the beginning. I really like audiobooks. That is like the main way that I actually read things is audiobooks. Because at work, I work in an office and I'm mostly doing like very repetitive tasks, so I can listen to audiobooks while I work, and that has helped me read a lot more books than I have in a long time. I know I have music that will work better for this, I just have to find it. I should have planned better. No. I'll just go with this one for now. Because we start out with Henry Saville, and so... We're not to the spooky parts yet. Not that it's a very scary book, but... Christopher Lee. I will have to look him up. Hello, Bruno. Welcome. Okay. So let us start. So I'm gonna be reading this, but I will occasionally stop and make comments, especially when we actually get to Victor, because the thing about Frankenstein, thing about Frankenstein is that I have read it many, many times. I don't know why or when I started reading Frankenstein over and over again, but at some point in my life I did. And Victor gets on my nerves so much. Welcome, Juan. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish, so I don't understand, but thank you for coming to my stream. Okay. But as I was saying, Victor super gets on my nerves, so I'm gonna complain about him when I read. Um, Letter 1 to Mrs. Saville. I don't know if it's. I guess it would be Saville because they're from England. St. Petersburg, December 11th, 17 something. You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I arrived here yesterday, and my first task is to assure my dear sister of my welfare, and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking. I am already far north of London, and as I walk in the streets of Petersburg, I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks, which braces my nerves and fills me with delight. Do you understand this feeling? This breeze, which has traveled from the regions towards which I am advancing, gives me a foretaste of those icy climes. Inspirited by this wind of promise, my daydreams become more fervent and vivid. I try in vain to be persuaded that the pole is the seat of frost and desolation. It ever presents itself to my imagination as the region of beauty and delight. There, Margaret, the sun is forever visible. Its broad disk, just skirting the horizon and diffusing a perpetual splendor. There, for with your leave, my sister, I will put some trust in preceding navigators. There snow and frost are banished, and, sailing over a calm sea, we may be wafted to a land surpassing in wonders and in beauty every region hitherto discovered on the habitable globe. So it starts out with this guy who's going to go on a polar expedition, and this was like a really topical thing at the time. Like, a lot of the stuff in Frankenstein was topical at the time that Mary Shelley wrote it. So like, I think that was like shortly after the experiment that Benjamin Franklin had conducted with lightning, like in the kite. Things like electricity were just starting to be understood, so that inspired her a lot in writing this. Let's see, where was I? Its productions and features may be without example, as the phenomena of the heavenly bodies undoubtedly are in those undiscovered solitudes. What may not be expected in a country of eternal light? I may there discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle, and may regulate 1,000 celestial observations that require only this voltage to render their seeming eccentricities consistent forever. I shall satiate my ardent curiosity with the sight of a part of the world never before visited, and may tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man. These are my enticements, and they are sufficient to conquer all fear of danger or death, and to induce me to commence this laborious voyage with the joy a child feels when he embarks in a little boat with his holiday mates on an expedition of discovery up his native river. But supposing all these conjectures to be false, you cannot contest the inestimable benefit which I shall confer on all mankind to the last generation, by discovering a passage near the pole to those countries to reach which at present so many months are requisite, or by ascertaining the secret of the magnet, which, if at all possible, can only be effected by an undertaking such as mine. The language in this is very Victorian. It's not the worst, but it is very wordy. I actually don't like... I like Gothic fiction, but I don't like to read a whole lot of Victorian fiction on the whole because it's so wordy. It's so purple. These reflections have dispelled the agitation with which I began my letter, and I feel my heart glow with an enthusiasm which elevates me to heaven, for nothing contributes so much to tranquilize the mind as a steady purpose, a point on which the soul may fix its intellectual eye. This expedition has been the favorite dream of my early years. I have read with ardor the accounts of the various voyages which have been made in the prospect of arriving at the North Pacific Ocean through the seas which surround the pole. You may remember that history of all the voyages made for purposes of discovery composed the whole of our good Uncle Thomas's library. My education was neglected, yet I was passionately fond of reading. These volumes were my study day and night, and my familiarity with them increased that regret which I had felt as a child, on learning that my father's dying injunction had forbidden my uncle to allow me to embark in a seafaring life. I need to see if I can, get a translation bot set up, for chat. Because I really appreciate people coming in and listening to me, even if there's a language barrier, and I would like to be able to talk back to you. So the only thing I can do right now is paste stuff into Google Translate, which is not very good. But I appreciate you coming. Yes, I am from the United States. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you like my voice and that you have stumbled upon me. Thank you. Yep, I'm from the US. And thank you for translating, Maxie. I appreciate that a lot. Let's see, where did I stop? Oh, down here. These visions faded when I... Oh, nice to meet you too. I try to respond to chat. I like talking to people. That's why I wish I knew more languages. These visions faded when I perused for the first time those poets whose effusions entranced my soul and lifted it to heaven. I also became a poet, and for 1 year lived in a paradise of my own creation. I imagined that I also might obtain a niche in the temple where the names of Homer and Shakespeare are consecrated. That's some really high ambition, dude. You want to be a poet on the level of Shakespeare? Man. You are well acquainted with my failure and how heavily I bore the disappointment. But just at that time, I inherited the fortune of my cousin, and my thoughts were turned into the channel of their earlier bent. 6 years have passed since I resolved on my present undertaking. I can, even now, remember the hour from which I dedicated myself to this great enterprise. That's true. You gotta aim high. It made me laugh because I also write poetry, and I can't even imagine saying with a straight face that I want to be regarded like Homer and Shakespeare. That's a bold move. That's a power move. I commenced by inuring my body to hardship. I accompanied the whale fishers on several expeditions to the North Sea. I voluntarily endured cold, famine, thirst, and want of sleep. I often worked harder than the common sailors during the day and devoted my nights to the study of mathematics. the theory of medicine, and those branches of physical science from which a naval adventurer might derive the greatest practical advantage. Twice I actually hired myself as an undermate in a Greenland whaler, and acquitted myself to the admiration. I must own I felt a little proud when my captain offered me the second dignity in the vessel, and entreated me to remain with the greatest earnestness, so valuable did he consider my services. And now, dear Margaret, do I not deserve to accomplish some great purpose? My life might have been passed in ease and luxury, but I preferred glory to every enticement that wealth placed in my path. Oh, that some encouraging voice would answer in the affirmative. My courage and my resolution is firm, but my hopes fluctuate, and my spirits are often depressed. I am about to proceed on a long and difficult voyage, the emergencies of which will demand all my fortitude. I am required not only to raise the spirits of others, but sometimes to sustain my own when theirs are falling. This is a most favorable period for traveling in Russia. They fly quickly over the snow in their sledges. The motion is pleasant, and, in my opinion, far more agreeable than that of an English stagecoach. The cold is not excessive if you are wrapped in furs, a dress which I have already adopted, for there is a great difference between walking the deck and remaining seated motionless for hours when no exercise prevents the blood from actually freezing in your veins. I have no ambition to lose my life on the post road between St. Petersburg and Archangel. I shall depart for the latter town in a fortnight or 3 weeks, and my intention is to hire a ship there, which can easily be done by paying the insurance for the owner, and to engage as many sailors as I think necessary among those who are accustomed to whale fishing. I do not intend to sail until the month of June, and when shall I return? Ah, dear sister, how can I answer this question? If I succeed, many, many months, perhaps years, will pass before you, and I may meet. If I fail, you will see me again, soon or never. Farewell, my dear, excellent Margaret. Heaven shower down blessings on you, and save me, that I may again and again testify my gratitude for all your love and kindness. Your affectionate brother, R. Walton. I think I called him Henry earlier. Henry's another character. But this is I think Robert Walton. The structure of Frankenstein is pretty interesting because you've got like several different layers of it. So like in the middle layer is the monster. And then the monster's story is told to Robert Walton by Victor. And Victor also tells his own story. And then Robert Walton is the one who's telling us this story. Yeah, it's very, very formal writing. It's kind of funny to imagine somebody actually talking like this. Letter 2 to Mrs. Seville, England. I want to pronounce it in the French way because I speak French, but it's just Seville. It's not Sevilla. Archangel, 28th March, 17-something. How slowly the time passes here, encompassed as I am by frost and snow. Yet a second step is taken towards my enterprise. I have hired a vessel and am occupied in collecting my sailors. Those whom I have already engaged appear to be men on whom I can depend and are certainly possessed of dauntless courage. But I have one want which I have never yet been able to satisfy, and the absence of the object of which I now feel as a most severe evil. I have no friend, Margaret. When I am glowing with the enthusiasm of success, there will be none to participate in my joy. If I am assailed by disappointment, no one will endeavor to sustain me in dejection. I shall commit my thoughts to paper, it is true, but that is a poor medium for the communication of feeling. I desire the company of a man who could sympathize with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. I have no one near me, gentle yet courageous, possessed of a cultivated as well as of a capacious mind, whose tastes are like my own, to approve or amend my plans. How would such a friend repair the faults of your poor brother? I am too ardent in execution and too impatient of difficulties, but it is still a greater evil to me that I am self-educated. I'm sorry. It's too funny at points. For the first 14 years of my life, I ran wild on a common and read nothing but our Uncle Thomas's books of voyages. At the age I became acquainted with celebrated poets of our own country, but it was only when it had ceased to be in my power to derive its most important benefits from such a conviction that I perceived the necessity of becoming acquainted with more languages than that of my native country. Now I am 28, and am in reality more illiterate than many schoolboys of 15. It is true that I have thought more, and that my daydreams are more extended and magnificent, but they want, as the painters call it, keeping, and I greatly need a friend who would have sense enough not to despise me as a romantic, and affection enough for me to endeavor to regulate my mind. So, like, he's 28, and he's, like, he's worried that he's, like, not even as educated as 15-year-olds, but, like, so, at this time, like, education was not, like, a given. A lot of people weren't educated at all. So he wants to be, like, formally educated, and he's not. And, like, a lot of it was also, like, learning languages, especially, like, Latin, and, Latin was an important one. Well, these are useless complaints. I shall certainly find no friend on the wide ocean, nor even here in Archangel, among merchants and seamen. Yet some feelings, unallied to the dross of human nature, beat even in these rugged bosoms. My lieutenant, for instance, is a man of wonderful courage and enterprise. He is madly desirous of glory, or rather, to word my phrase more characteristically, of advancement in his profession. He is an Englishman in the midst of national and professional prejudices, unsoftened by cultivation, retains some of the noblest endowments of humanity. I first became acquainted with him on board a whale vessel. Finding that he was unemployed in the city, I easily engaged him to assist in my enterprise. I struggle with some words, like, even normally, so I'm gonna struggle a little bit at times with these very fancy modes of speech. The master is a person of an excellent disposition, and is remarkable in the ship for his gentleness and the mildness of his discipline. This circumstance, added to his well-known integrity and dauntless courage, made me very desirous to engage him. A youth passed in solitude, my best years spent under your gentle and feminine fosterage, has so refined the groundwork of my character that I cannot overcome an intense distaste to the usual brutality exercised on board ship. I have never believed it to be necessary. And when I heard of a mariner equally noted for his kindliness of heart and the respect and obedience paid to him by his crew, I felt myself peculiarly fortunate in being able to secure his services. I heard of him first in rather a romantic manner, from a lady who owes to him the happiness of her life. This, briefly, is his story. There's a lot of this, like people go through talking about how great the people that they know are, and will tell you their life story immediately, every time. Some years ago he loved a young Russian lady of moderate fortune, and having amassed a considerable sum in prize money, the father of the girl consented to the match. He saw his mistress once before the destined ceremony, but she was bathed in tears, and throwing herself at his feet, entreated him to spare her, confessing at the same time that she loved another, but that he was poor, and that her father would never consent to the union. My generous friend reassured her suppliant, and on being informed of the name of her lover, instantly abandoned his pursuit. He had already bought a farm with his money, on which he had destined to pass the remainder of his life, but he bestowed the whole on his rival, together with the remains of his prize money, to purchase stock, and then himself solicited the young woman's father to consent to her marriage with her lover. But the old man decidedly refused, thinking himself bound in honor to my friend, who, when he found the father inexorable, quitted his country, nor returned until he heard that his former mistress was married, according to her inclinations. What a noble fellow, you will exclaim. He is so, but he is wholly uneducated. He is as silent as a Turk, and a kind of ignorant carelessness attends him. Thank you! Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. I don't know if it doesn't look like my follow thing updated. I think sometimes the YouTube doesn't work, but thank you, I appreciate it. So yeah, he's talking about this dude, like, telling this story about he nobly gave up his marriage that he had arranged because he could basically pay the dowry. Because she loved somebody else who was poor, and he helped him, but this guy doesn't talk very much, and he's not educated. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for subscribing. It really makes me happy that, like, people come and like my voice and what I'm doing enough, even that they'll just sorry, I get tongue-tied a lot. But they like my voice and what I'm doing enough to subscribe, even though there's a language barrier. That's very touching. Thank you. Yet do not suppose, because I complain a little, or because I can conceive a consolation for my toils, which I may never know, that I am wavering in my resolutions. Those are as fixed as fate, and my voyage is only now delayed until the weather shall permit my embarkation. The winter has been dreadfully severe, but the spring promises well, and it is considered as a remarkably early season, so that perhaps I may sail sooner than I expected. I shall do nothing rashly. You know me sufficiently to confide in my prudence and considerateness, whenever the safety of others is committed to my care. I cannot describe to you my sensations on the near prospect of my undertaking. It is impossible to communicate to you a conception of the trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half fearful, with which I am preparing to depart. I am going to unexplored regions, to the land of mist and snow, but I shall kill no albatross. Therefore do not be alarmed for my safety, or if I should come back to you as worn and woeful as the Ancient Mariner. Oh, I was gonna say, that the albatross part is a reference to the poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Coleridge. I should read some Coleridge sometime. It's a really, like, super old book of Coleridge poems. It's so old that, like, there's something that they used to do in books called water marbling. I think that's the word, like, on the front covers. It's just like a weird painted front cover, like on the inside. And it's got that because it's so old. You will smile at my illusion, but I will disclose a secret. I have often attributed my attachment. Hello, Alexis. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm just reading some Frankenstein right now. I've never done, like, a read aloud stream before, but I wanted to try it. I've been tweeting a lot about Frankenstein lately, so I decided to read Frankenstein. Where was I? The dangerous mysteries of ocean to that production of the most imaginative of modern poets. There is something at work in my soul which I do not understand. I am practically industrious. Painstaking, a workman to execute with perseverance and labor. But besides this, there is a love for the marvelous, a belief in the marvelous, intertwined in all my projects. I'm good. How are you, Alexis? Thanks for asking. I slept most of the day, so I haven't actually been awake for all that long. Maybe like 5 hours now. Let's see. Here we go. Which hurries me out of the common pathways of men, even to the wild sea and unvisited regions I am about to explore. But to return to dearer considerations, shall I meet you again after having traversed immense seas and returned by the most southern cape of Africa or America? I dare not expect such success, yet I cannot bear to look on the reverse of the picture. Continue for the present to write me by every opportunity. I may receive your letters on some occasions when I need them most to support my spirits. I love you very tenderly. Remember me with affection, should you never hear from me again. Okay, it is Robert Walton. Yeah, I can kind of understand what you're saying there, but yeah, like, I talk kind of fast. Yeah, so unfortunately. But I will, like, I'm gonna see if I can get a chat bot set up that will translate stuff. I'm not sure if there is one, but it would be cool if there was. It would help. My dear sister, I write a few lines in haste to say that I am safe and well advanced on my voyage. This letter will reach England by a merchantman now, on its homeward voyage from Archangel, more unfortunate than I, who may not see my native land perhaps for many years. I am, however, in good spirits. My men are bold and apparently firm of purpose, nor do the floating sheets of ice that continually pass us, indicating the dangers of the region towards which we are advancing, appear to dismay them. We have already reached a very high latitude, but it is the height of summer, and although not so warm as in England, the southern gales, which blow us speedily towards those shores which I so ardently desire to attain, breathe a degree of renovating warmth which I had not expected. No incidents have hitherto befallen us that would make a figure in a letter. 1 or 2 stiff gales in the spring of a leak are accidents which experienced navigators scarcely remember to record, and I shall be well content if nothing worse happened to us during our voyage. Adieu, my dear Margaret. Be assured that for my own sake, as well as yours, I will not rashly encounter danger. I will be cool, persevering, and prudent. But success shall crown my endeavors. Wherefore not? Thus far I have gone, tracing a secure way over the pathless seas, the very stars themselves being witnesses and testimonies of my triumph. Yeah, they are very... It's not the easiest thing to read. I'm surprised I'm doing as well as I am. Because I get tongue-tied a lot. Just speaking normally. Why not still proceed over the untamed yet obedient element? What can stop the determined heart and resolved will of man? My swelling heart involuntarily pours itself out thus. But I must finish. Heaven bless my beloved sister. R.W. He's signed his name differently in every single letter. First it was R. Walton, then it was Robert Walton, now we're just R.W. Letter 4 to Mrs. Seville, England, August 5th, 17-something. So strange an accident has happened to us that I cannot forbear recording it, although it is very probable that you will see me before these papers can come into your possession. So now we get to the part where he has met Victor, and Victor starts to tell his story. Yeah, he got lazy. He was not gonna write out his whole name anymore. Last Monday, July 31st, we were nearly surrounded by ice, which closed in the ship on all sides, scarcely leaving her the sea room in which she floated. Our situation was somewhat dangerous, especially as we were compassed round by a very thick fog. We accordingly lay to, hoping that some change would take place in the atmosphere and weather. About 2 o'clock the mist cleared away, and we beheld, stretched out in every direction, vast and irregular plains of ice, which seemed to have no end. Some of my comrades groaned, and my own mind began to grow watchful with anxious thoughts, when a strange sight suddenly attracted our attention and diverted our solicitude from our own situation. S's are the hardest letter for me to pronounce, so I have a little bit of a lisp. It's not terrible, but it is there. We perceived a low carriage fixed on a sledge and drawn by dogs pass on towards the north, at the distance of half a mile. A being which had the shape of a man, but apparently of gigantic stature, sat in the sledge and guided the dogs. We watched the rapid progress of the traveler with our telescopes until he was lost among the distant inequalities of ice. So that's Frankenstein's monster that he saw. The being of gigantic stature. This appearance excited our unqualified wonder. We were, as we believed, many hundred miles from any land, but this apparition seemed to note that it was not, in reality, so distant as we had supposed. Shut in, however, by ice, it was impossible to follow his track, which we had observed with the greatest attention. About 2 hours after this occurrence, we heard the ground sea, and before night the ice broke and freed our ship. We, however, lay to until morning, fearing to encounter in the dark those large loose masses which float about after the breaking up of ice. I profited of this time to rest for a few hours. In the morning, however, as soon as it was light, I went upon deck and found all the sailors busy on the side of the vessel, apparently talking to someone in the sea. It was, in fact, a sledge, like that we had seen before, which had drifted towards us in the night on a large fragment of ice. Only one dog remained alive, but there was a human being within it whom the sailors were persuading to enter the vessel. He was not, as the other travelers seemed to be, a savage inhabitant of some undiscovered island, but a European. When I appeared on deck, the master said, "Here is our captain, and he will not allow you to perish on the open sea." On perceiving me, the stranger addressed me in English, although with a foreign accent. "Before I come on board your vessel," said he, "will you have the kindness to inform me whither you are bound?" You may conceive my astonishment on hearing such a question addressed to me, for a man on the brink of destruction, and to whom I should have supposed that my vessel would have been a resource which he would not have exchanged for the most precious wealth the earth can afford. I replied, however, that we are on a voyage of discovery towards the northern pole. So, this is Victor Frankenstein, and he's trapped on a chunk of ice, floating in the sea. Only one of his sled dogs is still alive. He himself is in a pretty sorry state, but when they offer to let him on the ship, he's like, before I get on, where are you going? I need to know first. It's like about to die, and he's like, well, hold on. Upon hearing this, he appeared satisfied. It really could. This is why I don't read Victorian books that often. Upon hearing this, he appeared satisfied and consented to come on board. He don't care. Good God, Margaret, if you had seen the man who thus capitulated for his safety, your surprise would have been boundless. His limbs were nearly frozen, and his body dreadfully emaciated by fatigue and suffering. I never saw a man so wretched in condition. We attempted to carry him into the cabin, but as soon as he had quitted the fresh air, he fainted. We accordingly brought him back to the deck and restored him to animation by rubbing him with brandy and forcing him to swallow a small quantity. This is something that people used to do, but you really shouldn't do it. Brandy makes you feel warmer. Like, alcohol will make you feel warmer, but it actually reduces your body temperature, so it's not a good thing to do. But it's what they did back then. As soon as he showed signs of life, we wrapped him up in blankets and placed him near the chimney of the kitchen stove. By slow degrees, he recovered and ate a little soup, which restored him wonderfully. Really, imagine, like, being half frozen, all of your dogs are dead, you're, like, about to pass out, and somebody is gonna let you on their ship, and you're like, maybe, but are you going to the North Pole? 2 days passed in this manner before he was able to speak, and I often fear that his sufferings had deprived him of understanding. When he had in some measure recovered, I removed him to my own cabin and attended on him as much as my duty would permit. I never saw a more interesting creature. His eyes have generally an expression of wildness and even madness. But there are moments when, if anyone performs an act of kindness towards him, or does him any of the most trifling service, his whole countenance is lighted up, as it were, with a beam of benevolence and sweetness that I never saw equaled. But he is generally melancholy and despairing, and sometimes he gnashes his teeth, as if impatient of the weight of woes that oppresses him. When my guest was a little recovered, I had great trouble to keep off the men, who wished to ask him 1,000 questions, but I would not allow him to be tormented by their idle curiosity in a state of body and mind whose restoration evidently depended upon entire repose. Once, however, the lieutenant asked why he had come so far upon the ice in so strange a vehicle. His countenance instantly assumed an aspect of the deepest gloom, and he replied, "To seek one who fled from me." "And did the man whom you pursued travel in the same fashion?" "Yes." "Then I fancy we have seen him, for the day before we picked you up we saw some dogs drawing a sledge, with a man in it, across the ice." This aroused the stranger's attention, and he asked a multitude of questions concerning the route which the Damon, as he called him, had pursued. I don't know if this is pronounced demon or Damon. Soon after, when he was alone with me, he said, "I have, doubtless, excited your curiosity, as well as that of these good people, but you are too considerate to make inquiries." "Certainly, it would indeed be very impertinent and inhuman in me to trouble you with any inquisitiveness of mine." Really, like, imagining someone talking like this. "And yet you rescued me from a strange and perilous situation. You have benevolently restored me to life." Soon after this he inquired if I thought that the breaking up of the ice had destroyed the other sledge. I replied that I could not answer with any degree of certainty, for the ice had not broken until near midnight, and the traveler might have arrived at a place of safety before that time, but of this I could not judge. From this time a new spirit of life animated the decaying frame of the stranger. He manifested the greatest eagerness to be upon deck to watch for the sledge, which had before appeared, but I have persuaded him to remain in the cabin, for he is far too weak to sustain the rawness of the atmosphere. I have promised that someone should watch for him, and give him instant notice if any new object should appear in sight. Such is my journal of what relates to this strange occurrence up to the present day. The stranger has gradually improved in health, but is very silent and appears uneasy when anyone except myself enters his cabin. Yet his manners are so conciliating and gentle that the sailors are all interested in him. Yeah, it's easier to write like this than it is to speak like this. So part of the reason that I have been thinking a lot about Frankenstein lately is that I have some characters who were inspired by Victor and the monster, but in very different circumstances. And so when I write them speaking, I try to adopt a little bit of the phrasing that people would have used, but But this is a little too far. Like, sometimes I worry that when I write them that it sounds too silly, or like too what would the word be? I guess overblown and too wordy. But reading this, I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I'm fine. For my own part, I begin to love him as a brother, and his constant and deep grief fills me with sympathy and compassion. He must have been a noble creature in his better days, being even now, in wreck, so attractive and amiable. The thing about Frankenstein is that everybody loves Victor. Everybody in this whole book, they spend all their time talking about how great Victor is. You know, how sensitive and how compassionate and how friendly and attractive he is. Everybody talks about him, and he's a little bit inspired by Mary Shelley's husband. My brain is blanking. How have I forgotten her husband's name? Percy Shelley. Yeah, Percy Shelley. The romantic poet. Hello, Warrior 2064. Welcome. Thanks for coming. But yeah, so whenever anybody talks about Victor in this whole book, they talk about how great he is. I said in one of my letters, my dear Margaret, that I should find no friend on the wide ocean, yet I have found a man who, before his spirit had been broken by misery, I should have been happy to have possessed as the brother of my... He is an OC, but if I remember correctly, he was a little bit inspired by Percy Shelley. Oh, cool. I hope your class goes well, Warrior. I appreciate you hanging out with me while you study. Yeah. Yeah. The interesting thing about Frankenstein, if anybody's not familiar with this story, the original idea for this book came from a holiday that Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, and Lord Byron's physician. There might have been one other person, but definitely those four. They went on a holiday, I think, to Geneva, which is where most of the book is set, in Geneva. And they they basically got around, like sat around telling scary stories to each other. They were gonna have like a contest, basically. And the night before, Mary Shelley had miscarried. And it was like a really, really big thing for her that she had miscarried. It was very upsetting. And so she had a dream that her child that she miscarried, basically, I can't remember exactly, but basically that it had been brought to life or something, or that a monster similar to Frankenstein had been brought to life, and like that dream inspired the whole book, alongside like some of the science at the time. Like I mentioned earlier, they were just beginning to understand electricity, so that comes up a lot. And the funny thing about that holiday is that the first vampire novel also came out of that. It's not very good. I would not suggest that you read it. It is called The Vampire by Polidori. Polidori is Byron's physician. Hello, Rempower. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I am rambling about the origins of the novel Frankenstein right now. But But yeah, The Vampire by, I think, John Polidori. His last name is definitely Polidori. I have read it. It sucks. It's not a good book. But if you want to read the first vampire novel, it's that. Frankenstein is a much better book, and it was written by a 19-year-old. My affection for my August 13th, 17 something. My affection for my guest increases every day. Oh, he didn't even sign the last letter. He really has just gotten completely lazy. My affection for my guest increases every day. He excites at once my admiration, my pity, to an astonishing degree. How can I see so noble a creature destroyed by misery without feeling the most poignant grief? He is so gentle, yet so wise. His mind is so cultivated, and when he speaks, although his words are culled with the choicest art, yet they flow with rapidity and unparalleled eloquence. He is now much recovered from his illness, and is continually on the deck, apparently watching for the sledge that preceded his own. Yet, although unhappy, he is not so utterly occupied by his own misery, but that he interests himself deeply in the projects of others. He has frequently conversed with me on mine, which I have communicated to him without disguise. He entered attentively into all my arguments in favor of my eventual success, and into every minute detail of the measures I had taken to secure it. I was easily led by this sympathy with which he evinced to use the language of my heart, to give utterance to the burning ardor of my soul, and to say, with all the fervor that warmed me, how gladly I would sacrifice my fortune, my existence, my every hope, to the furtherance of my enterprise. One man's life or death were but a small price to pay for the acquirement of the knowledge which I sought, for the dominion I should acquire, and transmit over the elemental foes of our race. As I spoke, a dark gloom spread over my listener's countenance. At first I perceived that he tried to suppress his emotion. He placed his hands before his eyes, and my voice quivered and failed me as I beheld tears trickle fast from between his fingers. A groan burst from his heaving breast. I paused. At length he spoke, in broken accents. "Unhappy man, do you share my madness? Have you drunk also of the intoxicating draught? Hear me, let me reveal my tale, and you will dash the cup from your lips." Such words, you may imagine, strongly excited my curiosity, but the paroxysm of grief that had seized the stranger overcame his weakened powers, and many hours of repose and tranquil conversation were necessary to restore his composure. So, Robert Walton is talking about, his ambitions, how he's, going to, defeat the elements and, nature, and make a great discovery at the North Pole, and Frankenstein, or Victor, Victor is Frankenstein. Oh yeah, this is just the beginning. This is this dude just met Victor 2 days ago or something. I guess 10 days ago, but and he's already singing his praises to the heavens. But yeah, it's honestly, that's one reason why, I insult Victor so much. I feel like I have to make up for the amount that everybody's into Victor. But yeah, so Robert's talking about his ambitions, and that, upset Victor so much that he had to talk to him very, very calmly for several hours before he was back to normal. Having conquered the violence of his feelings, he appeared to despise himself for being the slave of passion, and quelling the dark tyranny of despair, he led me again to converse concerning myself personally. He asked me the history of my earlier years. The tale was quickly told, but it awakened various trains of reflection. I spoke of my desire of finding a friend, of my thirst for a more intimate sympathy with a fellow mind than had ever fallen to my lot, and expressed my conviction that a man could boast of little happiness who did not enjoy this blessing. He just wants a friend. He just wants a buddy. Doesn't have a buddy. I agree with you, replied the stranger. We are unfashioned creatures, but half made up. If one wiser, better, dearer than ourselves, such a friend ought to be. Do not lend his aid to perfectionate our weak and faulty natures. I once had a friend, the most noble of human creatures, and am entitled, therefore, to judge respecting friendship. Victor's like, oh yeah, I had a friend, so I know about friendship. I had a friend one time. You have hope in the world before you and have no cause for despair, but I have lost everything and cannot begin life anew. It's kind of your fault. It's your fault, Victor. As he said this, his countenance became expressive of a calm, settled grief that touched me to the heart, but he was silent and presently retired to his cabin. Even broken in spirit as he is, no one can feel more deeply than he does the beauties of nature. The starry sky, the sea, and every sight afforded by those wonderful regions still seem to have the power of elevating his soul from earth. Such a man has a double existence. He may suffer misery and be overwhelmed by disappointments, yet when he has retired to himself, he will be like a celestial spirit that has a halo around him. If you have friends, I remember friends, within whose circle no grief or folly ventures. Will you smile at the enthusiasm I express concerning this divine wanderer? I will laugh at you, Robert Walton. I am laughing at your enthusiasm. You would not if you saw him. You have been tutored and refined by books and retirement of the world, and you are therefore somewhat fastidious. But this only renders you the more fit to appreciate the extraordinary merits of this wonderful— like, he's back on it, of this wonderful man. Sometimes I have endeavored to discover what quality it is which he possesses that elevates him so immeasurably above any person I ever knew. I believe it to be an intuitive discernment, a quick but never failing power of judgment, a penetration into the causes of things, unequaled for clearness and precision. Add to this a facility of expression and a voice whose varied intonations are soul-subsiding music, so on top of everything else, he has a nice voice. He's nice to listen to. August 19th, 17-something. Yesterday the stranger said to me, "You may easily perceive, Captain Walton, that I have suffered great and unparalleled misfortunes. I had determined at one time that the memory of these evils should die with me, but you have won me to alter my determination. You seek for knowledge and wisdom as I once did." Yeah. And I ardently hope that the gratification of your wishes may not be a serpent to sting you, as mine have been. I do not know what the relation of my disasters will be useful to you, yet when I reflect that you are pursuing the same course, exposing yourself to the same dangers which have rendered me what I am, I imagine that you may deduce an apt moral from my tale, one that may direct you if you succeed in your undertaking, and console you in case of failure. So here's the thing, though. Victor's like, oh, you're exactly like I was. But Robert's not trying to literally make a human. Robert is not trying to play God. Robert is just trying to go to the North Pole. The only thing that could happen as a result of his actions, he might die, and he's already fine with that. Like, they are not the same. Prepare to hear of occurrences which are usually deemed marvelous. Were we among the tamer scenes of nature, I might fear to encounter your unbelief, perhaps your ridicule. But many things will appear possible in these wild and mysterious regions, which would provoke the laughter of those unacquainted with the evil varied powers of nature. Nor can I doubt but that my tale conveys in its series internal evidence of the truth of the events of which it is composed. Yeah, all science is exactly the same. It's all of it. Like biology and geology and zoology and the study of like weather, it's all the same stakes. You may easily imagine that I was much gratified by the offered communication, yet I could not endure that he should renew his grief. by a recital of his misfortunes. I felt the greatest eagerness to hear the promised narrative, partly from curiosity, and partly from a strong desire to ameliorate his fate, if it were in my power. I expressed these feelings in my answer. "I thank you," he replied, "for your sympathy, but it is useless. My fate is nearly fulfilled. I await but for one event, and then I shall repose in peace. I understand your feeling," continued he, perceiving that I wished to interrupt him. "But you are mistaken, my friend, if thus you will allow me to name you. Nothing can alter my destiny. Listen to my history, and you will perceive how irrevocably it is determined." So Victor's basically like, guess I'll die. That's... He's got one goal, and it is to take his creature with him. He then told me that he would commence his narrative the next day, when I should be at leisure. This promise drew me from the warmest thanks. I have resolved every night, when I am not imperatively occupied by my duties, to record, as nearly as possible in his own words, what he related during the day. If I should be engaged, I will at least make notes. This manuscript will doubtless afford you the greatest pleasure, but to me, who know him, and who hear it from his own lips, with what interest and sympathy shall I read it in some future day? Even now, as I commence my task, his full-toned voice swells in my ears, his lustrous eyes dwell on me with all their melancholy sweetness. I see his thin hand raised in animation, while the lineaments of his face are irradiated by the soul within. Strange and harrowing must be his story, frightful the storm which embraced the gallant vessel on its course and wrecked it thus. Everybody wants Victor. Everybody's into Victor. So here we are past the letters that Robert has written, and he's recounting now Victor's tale in Victor's words. So this is like the second layer of the story. It is 11:20. How long is chapter 1? It's not that long, so I will read the first chapter maybe, and then it really does. No, don't apologize. That's literally everyone's just like, Victor's hot. But they go on about it like for 3 sentences every time they bring him up. Like, they have to mention like his nice voice and how attractive he is, and he's got his thin, hands and like everything. How his face lights up when he speaks. Everybody thinks Victor's hot for some reason. Maybe Victor is hot. But if he is, he's hot and very irresponsible. But yeah, I'll read the first chapter and then maybe wrap up the stream. Thanks for hanging out with me. I am by birth a Genovese, and my family is one of the most distinguished of that republic. My ancestors have been for many years counselors and syndics, and my father had filled several public situations with honor and reputation. He was respected by all who knew him for his integrity and indefatigable attention to public business. He passed his younger days perpetually occupied by the affairs of his country. A variety of circumstances had prevented his marrying early, nor was it until the decline of life that he became a husband and the father of a family. But this is gonna happen whenever anybody talks about anybody. They make sure to talk about how great they were for about a paragraph at least. Thank you, Maxie. As the circumstances of his marriage illustrate his character, I cannot refrain from relating them. One of his most intimate friends was a merchant who, from a flourishing state, fell, through numerous mischances, into poverty. This man, whose name was Beaufort, was of a proud and unbending disposition, and could not bear to live in poverty and oblivion in the same country where he had formerly been distinguished for his rank and magnificence. Having paid his debts, therefore, in the most honorable manner, he retreated with his daughter to the town of Lucerne, where he lived unknown and in wretchedness. My father loved Beaufort with the truest kindship, and was deeply grieved by his retreat in these unfortunate circumstances. Yeah, being poor is the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. It's the worst fate. I say as a poor person. I'm pretty poor. I get by, but he bitterly deplored the false pride which led his friend to a conduct so little worthy of the affection that united them. He lost no time in endeavoring to seek him out, with the hope of persuading him to begin the world again through credit and assistance. It's pretty tough. It is. It's hard. But the thing is, instead of trying to do anything about it, well, he has his friend who's happy to set him up again. He just runs away. No one can see me. I'm poor. Don't look at me. Beaufort had taken effectual measures to conceal himself, and it was 10 months before my father discovered his abode. Overjoyed at this discovery, he hastened to the house, which was situated in a mean street near the Rue. But when he entered, misery and despair alone welcomed him. Beaufort had saved but a very small sum of money from the wreck of his fortunes, but it was sufficient to provide him with sustenance for some months. And in the meantime, he hoped to procure some respectable employment in a merchant's house. The interval was, consequently, spent in inaction. His grief only became more deep and rankling when he had leisure for reflection, and at length it took up so fast hold of his mind that at the end of 3 months he lay in a bed of sickness, incapable of any exertion. So he was so sad that he became poor that he just died, or he's gonna die. His daughter attended him with the greatest tenderness, but she saw with despair that their little fund was rapidly decreasing, and that there was no other prospect of support. But Caroline Beaufort possessed a mind of an uncommon mold, and her courage rose to support her in her adversity. She procured plain work. She plaited straw, and by various means contrived to earn a pittance scarcely sufficient to support life. Several months passed in this manner. Her father grew worse. Her time was more entirely occupied in attending him. Her means of subsistence decreased, and in the 10th month her father died in her arms, leaving her an orphan and a beggar. Yes. Oh no, I am too poor to live. What shall I do? Guess I'll die. That's literally what just happened. Oh, I'm poor now, guess I'll die. This last blow overcame her, and she knelt by Beaufort's coffin, weeping bitterly. When my father entered the chamber, he came like a protecting spirit to the poor girl, who committed herself to his care. And after the interment of his friend, he conducted her to Geneva, and placed her under the protection of a relation. 2 years after this event, Caroline became his wife. So yeah, he just married her, just straight up. There was considerable difference between the ages of my parents, but this circumstance seemed to unite them only closer in bonds of devoted affection. There was a sense of justice in my father's upright mind, which rendered it necessary that he should approve highly to love strongly. Perhaps during former years he had suffered from the late discovered unworthiness of one beloved, and so was disposed to set a greater value on tried worth. God, this language. There was a show of gratitude and worship in his attachment to my mother, differing wholly from the doting fondness of age, for it was inspired by a reverence for her virtues and a desire to the means of, in some degree, recompensing her for the sorrows she had endured, but which gave inexpressible grace to his behavior to her. Everything was made to yield to her wishes, and her convenience. He strove to shelter her, as a fair exotic is sheltered by the gardener, from every rougher wind, and to surround her with all that could tend to excite pleasurable emotion in her soft and benevolent mind. Yeah, so this is just he's just going on about there was a pretty big age gap between his parents, which, this is another thing about Victorian novels that pisses me off, quite frankly. There's a lot of romanticization of, orphan girls who are, barely adults being married by, kindly old men. Sometimes the men that raised them. Luckily not in this case, but it's very romanticized. There's stuff like that in Dickens. I don't like Charles Dickens. I don't hate him as much as, like, so as far as the authors that I was forced to read in school go, the one that I hate the most is Steinbeck. I hate Steinbeck, but I'm not very fond of Dickens. So basically, his friend died, he married her daughter, and Victor, at least in Victor's words, yeah, it's very, very noble. She may have been an adult, but they don't say. It doesn't matter as far as Victorian stuff goes. It's not like it would be very different if she was like 17 or 18. Anyway. Her health and even the tranquility of her hitherto constant spirit had been shaken by what she had gone through. During the 2 years that elapsed previous to their marriage, my father had gradually relinquished all his public functions, and immediately after their union they sought the pleasant climate of Italy, and the change of scene and interest attendant on a tour through that land of wonders as a restorative for a weakened frame. From Italy they visited Germany and France. I, their eldest child, was born at Naples, and as an infant accompanied them in their rambles. I remained for several years their only child. Much as they were attached to each other, they seemed to draw inexhaustible stores of affection from a very mine of love to bestow them upon me. My mother's tender caresses and my father's smile of benevolent pleasure while regarding me are my first recollections. I was their plaything and their idol, and something better, their child, the innocent and helpless creature bestowed on them by heaven, whom to bring up to good, and whose future lot it was in their hands to direct to happiness or misery, according as they fulfilled their duties toward me. With this deep consciousness of what they owed towards the being to which they had given life. Where was I? Added to the active spirit of tenderness that animated both, it may be imagined that while during every hour of my infant life, I received a lesson of patience, of charity, and of self-control. Oh, he does, quite a bit, honestly. I was so guided by a silken cord that all seemed but one train of enjoyment to me. He does very much toot his own horn. And it's like, it feels like humble brags sometimes, too. It's really funny. Like, I will definitely make fun of him when it comes out. For a long time I was their only care. My mother had much desired to have a daughter, but I continued their single offspring. When I was about 5 years old, while making an excursion beyond the frontiers of Italy, they passed a week on the shores of the Lake of Como. Their benevolent disposition often made them enter the cottages of the— oh god, there's this! Their benevolent disposition often made them enter the cottages of the poor. This, to my mother, was more than a duty, it was necessity, a passion, remembering what she had suffered and how she had been relieved, for to act in her turn the guardian angel to the afflicted. During one of their walks, a poor cot in the foldings of a veil attracted their notice as being singularly disconsolate, while the number of half-clothed children gathered about it spoke of penury in its worst shape. So this was like a really popular thing during this general time frame, is for basically rich ladies to go like visit poor people. Like that was a that was a thing. It comes up a fair amount in fiction. And they did it both like in Europe and America. One day, when my father had gone by himself to Milan, my mother, accompanied by me, visited this abode. She found a peasant and his wife, hard-working, bent down by care and labor, distributing a scanty meal to 5 hungry babes. "Hello, Elijah, welcome. Thank you for coming." Among these, there was one which attracted my mother far above all the rest. She appeared of a different stock. The 4 others were dark-eyed, hardy little vagrants. This child was very thin and very fair. Her hair was the brightest living gold, and despite the poverty of her clothing, seemed to set a crown of distinction upon her head. Her brow was clear and ample, her blue eyes cloudless. Welcome, Rem. You have moved to YouTube, I see. Thanks for coming back. And her lips and the molding of her face so expressive of sensibility and sweetness that none could behold her without looking on her as of a distant species, a being heaven sent, bearing a celestial stamp in all her features. So it's not just Victor, this is how everybody describes everybody in this book. Basically, so she was poor, but she was also pretty. She was, she had blonde hair and blue eyes, and it's like, the peasant woman, perceiving that my mother fixed eyes of wonder and admiration on this lovely girl, eagerly communicated her history. She was not her child, but the daughter of a Milanese nobleman. That's the thing, basically, she looked different because she was different, because she was actually a noble, and you can tell by looking at her. It's so messed up. Her mother was a German and had died on giving her birth. The infant had been placed with these good people to nurse. They were better off then. They had not been long married, and their eldest child was but just born. The father of their charge was one of those Italians nursed in the memory. Hello, anime lilies. This is Frankenstein. I'm probably gonna wrap up after this chapter, but this is the first chapter of Frankenstein. The father of, one among the Schiavi Agnorfrumenti, sorry, I don't know how to read Italian, who exerted himself to obtain the liberty of his country. He became the victim of its weakness. Whether he had died or still lingered in the dungeons of Austria was not known. His property was confiscated. His child became an orphan and a beggar. She continued with her foster parents and bloomed in their root abode. Fairer than a garden rose among dark-leaved brambles. That's so messed up. God. I hate Victor. When my father returned from Milan, he found playing with me in the hall of our villa a child fairer than pictured cherub, a creature who seemed to shed radiance from her looks, and whose form and motions were lighter than the chamois of the hills. The apparition was soon explained. With his permission, my mother prevailed on her rustic guardians to yield their charge to her. So yeah, she's gonna adopt her because she's pretty and noble. They were fond of the sweet orphan. Her presence had seemed a blessing to them, but it would be unfair to keep her in poverty and want when Providence afforded her such powerful protection. They consulted their village priest, and the result was that Elizabeth Lavenza became the inmate of my parents' house, my more-than-sister, the beautiful and adored companion of all my occupations and my pleasures. So he calls her my more-than-sister. They were raised as siblings, but also, they're, basically, throughout his entire life is the implication that he's probably gonna marry her. Everyone loved Elizabeth. The passionate and almost reverential attachment with which all regarded her became, while I shared it, my pride and my delight. On the evening previous to her being brought to my home, my mother had said playfully, "I have a pretty present for my Victor. Tomorrow he shall have it." And when, on the morrow, she presented Elizabeth to me as her promised gift, I, with childish seriousness, interpreted her words literally, and looked upon Elizabeth as mine to protect, love, and cherish. All praises bestowed on her I received as made a possession of my own. He's literally interpreting her as his object. Which, to be fair, he was a very young child and his parents told him that, but we called each other familiarly by the name of cousin. No word, no expression could body forth the kind relation in which she stood to me, my more-than-sister, since till death she was to be mine only. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Yeah. But this is a very common theme in Victorian fiction, is the uplifting of a a girl who is poor, but she's also pretty, and she's basically pretty because she's pious, and like the uplifting via marriage, adoption to marriage pipeline, basically. Yeah. Yep. So that is the end of the first chapter. So we've gotten into Victor's narrative. We're gonna hear, this is still when he's a very young child, so he's gonna tell his entire life story before we get to the actual Frankenstein part. Oh, hi CCT, welcome. I'm actually just about to wrap up. I've been streaming for 3 hours now, actually, I guess. Yeah, that's another big thing that is very common in Victorian fiction. The sickly ladies being beautiful, like suffering equals equals beauty. Yeah, that was very common. I would say, I don't like Edgar Allan Poe very much, but it's something that a lot of people associate with Poe, which it was in part because, like, pretty much all the women in his life died, so, or were very sickly, but, and it was very common, of course. Healthcare was not like it is today. So when people got sick, they often died. Still a thing, but less of a thing. Yep, so I'm not sure when I'll pick this up again. I would definitely like to read more of it, because I've had fun making fun. Yeah, just like today, if you don't have insurance, which is a lot of us. We were laughing earlier because there's a part when it's talking about Elizabeth's, not Elizabeth, Victor's mom's father. And basically he's he was rich and noble, and then he lost his fortune, and he was so upset that he was now poor that he ran away to a distant town, and it took Victor's dad 10 months to find him, and in that time he had basically said, oh no, I'm poor, guess I'll die, and he died, and then Victor's dad married Victor's mom. Shelley was definitely very upper class, and that's reflected quite heavily in this this narrative. And of course, beauty and virtue are associated with nobility. He was too poor to live. Might as well just die if you're poor. And then that wound up, after that they then adopted Elizabeth from a random couple who were originally nursing her, because that is what rich people did. Instead of nursing their own babies, they would find a poor woman who had, babies that they were nursing, and they would pay her to nurse their child too. Which also sometimes led to noble kids getting more of the resources. And the poorer kids not getting as much of the nutrition. But she had originally been given to this family to nurse, and then her dad also died, so they just kept raising her. And Victor's mom saw her, and she was so pretty, she was like, I'm gonna adopt her. Oh yeah, I've read the Cask of Amontillado. But I don't think I've heard Christopher Lee read it, so I will look that up. The story about Mary Shelley and her mom's... Oh, yeah. So, I'm not actually sure how factual this is. I'll look it up later. But there's definitely a story that goes around that Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley would fuck on Mary Shelley's mom's grave. Yeah. Their life was quite interesting. Mary Shelley's life was very interesting, I have to say. Even though, like, I will make fun of her as I read this novel, and her, you know, very upper class ideals, and, like, but also, she wrote this when she was 19 years old, so, like, what was I writing at 19 years old? Like, I was not writing a, groundbreaking piece of, fiction that would establish a new genre. That was not what I was doing when I was 19. Yeah, no, I was writing Cardcaptor Sakura fanfiction when I was 10, actually. Welcome, Matthew. We're gonna wrap up pretty soon, but thank you for stopping in. I'm just kind of chatting a little bit before I wrap things up. But yeah, so, like, what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying directly before this, but yeah, Mary Shelley's life was pretty interesting. I mentioned it earlier, but... Oh, yeah, that's right. I was dissing Mary Shelley, but also saying, like, yeah, what was I doing at 19? My work was definitely not very good at 19. It was not a groundbreaking, genre-establishing piece of fiction. So, you know, I'll give her that. You know, you gotta give her that. Though I will say, I got over the Mary Sue stuff probably when I was, like, 14. Although, like, also, like, I don't like a lot of, like, I'll say Mary Sue in regards to myself, because there was definitely a point, like, in the development of my writing and my character creation that I would do the same sort of stuff as this. Yeah, that's also very true. And she had lost her mom too. I think her mom died when she was born, actually, Mary Shelley's mom. Yeah. And, like, her dad raised her and, like, gave her an education, if I'm remembering correctly, gave her an education which was not super common. And but also, like, oh, well, welcome back, Juan. Welcome back. We're wrapping up. I'm just chatting a little bit before I end the stream. But her mom was actually Mary Wollstonecraft. And Mary Wollstonecraft was how should I describe it? She was like one of the first major feminist writers. So it made sense that Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley's father would give her an education, because that was something that her mother had believed in. And then I don't remember when she started, like, when she got with Percy Shelley. I think it was when she was, like, 17 or something. I don't know, but he was already married. I think he eloped with her. if I'm like, this is just from my memory. I actually have an English degree, so I've studied a lot of this stuff, but it's been a long time. It like, it was very, very like an opera, I would say, a soap opera. You could definitely make an HBO show out of this. But yeah, so like, but by the time that she was like writing this book, she and Percy were married. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they were married. And they wrote. She wrote this based on a holiday that she had taken with Percy and with Lord Byron and Lord Byron's physician, who was probably screwing Lord Byron. I don't know if that's like a confirmed thing, but I'm pretty sure that's why he was there. And there might have been somebody else, but I don't remember if there were. And they took that holiday and they had like, they were going to do like a scary story contest. And Mary had a dream that inspired this novel, and like that, and like the miscarriage that she'd had, and like science at the time, like they were just starting to learn about electricity, and she like combined all of those things into this. And like I was saying earlier, the first vampire novel, at least the first English one, also came out of this same holiday. And it was written by Byron's physician, who I believe is John Polidori. Polidori for sure. And the novel that he wound up writing is called The Vampire, with a Y, Vampyre. I know, right? When do I get to like go stay on Lake Geneva and like create a groundbreaking piece of fiction? But so the reason that I say not to read The Vampire, Polidori was not an author. It is not a good book. It's pretty bad. I've read it. I've read actually most of the important like historical vampire fiction works. Like I have like studied the development of that genre to a degree. So like The Vampire, there's another one. Let's see. Oh, Varney the Vampire, which was a Penny Dreadful. That was another early one. It's also not good, but it was a Penny Dreadful, so. And Carmilla, of course. I would say read Carmilla. Carmilla's not bad. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a new thing at all. The first vampire novel in the English language sucks. Don't read it. I need to finish Dracula. I like Dracula so far. But I actually haven't finished reading Dracula. Maybe I'll do a read aloud of it. Although that will take a while, so will this. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure when I will pick back up with Frankenstein. But I can say tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. EST, which is GMT -5, I'm going to be doing another collab, another virtual sleepover collab, and we're going to be talking about tea and coffee, and it's going to be a good time, so y'all should come hang out with us then. And then on Sunday at 10:30, yeah, the only The only reason to read it is to see how bad it was. Tea, coffee, and cryptids. But yeah, tea and coffee will be the theme tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I might start streaming at 8 or 9, and I don't know what I'll stream then. But at 10:30 on Sunday, I'm going to be playing more Danganronpa, but I'm going to be playing it with one of my friends. Archie is going to be there, and they have seen the Danganronpa anime, but they have not played the game, so I'm going to show them the game. And that'll be on Sunday, so I'm excited for this weekend's collabs. And that's about it. I am gonna head off now. You all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Like, I really appreciate it. I'm trying new things. Like, I didn't know how, like, coding and how reading aloud was gonna go over. Anime? Regular show. I used to watch the regular show. And Adventure Time, too. I am a big fan of Adventure Time. But anyway, yeah, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and sweet dreams to all of you. Oh, Danganronpa. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I was confused. But yeah, so, they didn't like, that's the thing, Archie did not like the anime, and so I'm gonna show them the light of the game. Actually, I don't know if they're gonna like it or not anyway, but they're excited to see. Yeah, good night, everybody. Sleep well. Sweet dreams. Oh, cool. So, when we do it though, I did like the prologue in a previous stream, like when I first started VTubing, so I'm probably gonna pick up from where I left off, but you're not gonna miss much. Oh, hello, Shinji Ikari. I am unfortunately just about to wrap up the stream, but thank you for coming. I hope to see you another day. I will be streaming on Friday and Sunday at 10:30 p.m. EST. But thank you for stopping by. Tomorrow will be a chat collab, and Sunday will be Danganronpa. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Sweet dreams.